Well, yesterday was the infamous twice a year time change. Now, I'm speaking to those of you that have to do this time change. And I know it's so hard on kids, especially children that are in a routine. I remember dreading it when my children were younger. But there's also at this time of the year the pressure to jump straight into Christmas. Now that Halloween is officially over, we can go straight to it. I mean, even before Halloween, I was seeing decorations in stores for Christmas. Now, I'm throwing no shade, no hate at anybody who is excited about it, that wants to begin decorating for Christmas. But we can learn so much contentment that will create peace within your heart and with your home that then trickles down to your homeschool and just to your family in general when we embrace the right now, which is this season of life, but it's also the season of the year, the autumn. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How can we incorporate some autumn homemaking rhythms so that you can have some calm homeschooling days before the craziness of all of the holidays takes over? Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where we talk anything and everything homeschool and all that encompasses the homeschool lifestyle. I'm your host, Leigh Nguyen. I'm a mom who never intended to homeschool, and suddenly I am here, 14 years later, with 2 homeschool graduates and 1 more to go. No matter where you are in your homeschool journey, Little by Little Homeschool seeks to empower and encourage you to carry out this amazing calling of home educating and discipling your children. It's not always easy, but I'm here to walk alongside you because I promise that these years are worth all of your effort. Grab that load of laundry that needs folded, settle in at the kitchen sink to wash those dishes, or tie up those walking sneakers, and let's get into today's topic. I look at right now, the beginning of November, as a beautiful in-between of that second summer. Did you have that? We did, and it was glorious and beautiful, and it was just refreshing. Pull out the shorts again, and just sunny days and the warmth, and it just was windows open at night, and just great sleeping weather, and it was just beautiful during the day. I loved it. But we're in between that second summer and the holidays. Now, again, speaking to most of you that are in the United States, that's where the broad demographic of my audience is. I know that some of you who listen are in Australia, which is, I love it. Thank you for listening. So you're at a different time, but maybe you can just soak this in and then apply it for when you do get to fall. But you are then, you still have Christmas at the same time as us, which is so foreign to me that it could be hot in summer and it's Christmas because I'm so used to it being cold. And that white Christmas, not to make you jealous or anything, we often get that here in New York. We get a lot of snow, and which is great. My kids have embraced it and they enjoy skiing. So anyway, we are that beautiful in-between of second summer and the holidays. And our children will take notes from us, the mom, and they will then incorporate like what we're into, they're into. It's funny. You have probably noticed your kids will repeat the things that you say and maybe that you're passionate about. They might be like, oh yeah, I'm really into that too, because they're just little parrots at this point and they're repeating what we are saying and what we are doing. And so they'll take a note from you as far as how you are feeling about right now. Are you starting to get anxious about Christmas? Are you annoyed that it's cold and it's no longer warm? But that discontentment that you could have for the right now will pass on to them. They will feel that discontentment as well. They will be looking for the next best thing. If you are at this point counting down until next summer, they are also counting down to next summer. And I think it's really important for us to be able to teach our kids the here and now, and that God wants us to be content. We aren't promised and assured of tomorrow. We aren't promised and assured of next summer. Lord willing, we will be there and we will embrace it and we will have a beautiful summer with our children. But right now is where we are at and where you are at. I remember loving the fall or autumn as a child because of the coziness in my home. Now, you might not have a wood stove like I had growing up. I don't have one now in this house either. We did have some stoves in 2 previous homes, and that made it so cozy. But the wood stove would be going, and it just felt so good to come inside when it was so crisp out. But it wasn't even just that. It was just the simple things of collecting beautiful fall leaves and pressing them. My mom had some books and some wax paper, and we lived in an old farmhouse, and so she had a lot of decor that was old. And so I remember getting the irons that were actually iron. We used them as door stops because none of our doors would stay open. And so we would use those. But I would put those on top of the books and press the leaves and check on them. And I'd be so excited when they were done and pressed. It was just really simple. I think we need to remember back to those times. I remember creating decorations and little signs and things, and I would hang around the house for autumn. And I remember one year specifically, we hosted Thanksgiving, and it was so exciting to me as a child to be able to help my mom to decorate. But I remember the pumpkins and the gourds that she had outside and inside. And I really embraced and loved the harvest time, that fall, autumn time. And I hope that you do as well. And so I tell you that story because our kids will remember those things too. They'll remember whether we are discontent during this time or we are content, and we are creating some rhythms, and that's going to add to some calm days within our family that then adds to a calmness within our homeschool days. So rhythms in our homemaking can lead to calmness in our homeschool. There is no separation of the home, the family, and homeschool. We are not doing school at home. We are a homeschool family. We are a home educating family. I don't even like putting that word school in homeschool, but that is just how everybody refers to it. Maybe someday in generations later than us, they will call it home education. But for now, we have the word homeschool, and it is a way of life. There is no separation. There's not a separation of mom and teacher. There is no separation of home and family life from homeschool. It's all together. So some different rhythms that you can incorporate into your homemaking that's going to lead to that calmness in your homeschool this autumn is to have, I already kind of alluded to this a little bit, is to have a heart to embrace the here and now. You as the mom set the tone. Now, there might be some days where you're just feeling crummy, maybe not feeling well. I mean, I've had a little bit of a stuffy kind of runny nose. And yeah, there's going to be some days that you're just not feeling really well. You might have kids that aren't feeling well. And so I'm not saying you have to be Pollyanna and you have to go and do things that your body is saying, no, we need to slow down. We need to rest. Not saying on that, but in general, we get to set the tone. And if we embrace the here and now, the fall, the autumn, then our kids will as well. Remember that? They're parrots. And so it's the little things. And our October was really full and busy, mostly with the conference. And then my husband and I went out of town for a couple of days. And I've just literally ever since then, all last week, picking up the pieces. The first thing was to make sure that I had things in place for the podcast. So that was like the bare minimum that I did. And then I spent a lot of time on just getting my home, my family, everything back into a rhythm, getting back into creating meal plans and getting grocery shopping, getting the house cleaned up. I mean, I had just let a lot of things go, and that's okay to do that. But then we need to come back. And that's what I was doing most of last week, and really feel like I'm in a good place with that. And now I need to get all the podcasts, little by little homeschool, all the business stuff. I've got a lot of we'll say cleanup to do when it comes to that. But I didn't have an opportunity. It just really wasn't high on my list to get any type of pumpkins or anything. Now, my older son did pick up a couple weeks ago. He came home and I had 2 giant mums. I did have mums. I did get those. That was a priority. And I had 2 giant mums sitting on the steps of our porch. And he said to me, "Mom, did you see what I picked up for you today?" And I said, "No, I didn't." He's like, "Look out there so I look out the front door. I was like, "I don't see anything." He's like, "No, you got to come down here." So beyond the giant mums, I couldn't see. Sitting at the bottom of the porch steps was a very large pumpkin. Now, if it was a very large pumpkin, the mom had to be even bigger than this pumpkin. And yes, it was. And he said, "I picked it up because you didn't have any pumpkins." And I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet." And I said, "Did you get the biggest one you could?" He said, "I certainly did." And I laughed because when they were young, I think they might have been the boys or middle school, high school, maybe even age. I let them just do silly stuff like this. It didn't matter to me. The decor wasn't as important as them feeling like they were a part of the home. And so one year, the both of them decided, we are going to get the biggest pumpkins that we can get. We went to a pumpkin patch on a homeschool day. That was our homeschool that day. And they got the biggest pumpkins. And so it was reminiscent of that. And I was like, perfect. And so I didn't pick up any pumpkins. The mums are now gone. They're dead. I did do a good job keeping them alive. But I mean, at some point, they just reached their end of their life. And so I just on Thursday went to the farms, get my milk and eggs and all that kind of stuff. And I picked up some pumpkins, and bonus was they were on sale, buy one, get one free. And so I put those on the steps. And even my 17-year-old, when I got home and I said, hey, can you empty out the trunk of the van for me? And he came back in and said, oh, I forgot to tell you about the pumpkins. He goes, no, I got it taken care of. I put them on the steps. And I said, you take the price tag off? He's like, no, I didn't take that off. I was like, all right, I'll get that out later. But he was excited about doing that. And so just those little things, if a 17-year-old is excited about some pumpkins and like, this feels like fall, then let him do that. Now, I know this was literally the day before Halloween. But to me, autumn is all of autumn. And I enjoy this harvest time. And don't take offense to this. If you like to decorate earlier, again, no hate, no shade, go and do it and embrace it. But for me, I will say, as for me in my house, but not like in the Bible verse, I'm not coming down on anybody. But I've decided years ago, this is even amongst while I had a DIY blog, and I understand influencers, they need to decorate earlier and they need to be the trendsetters, and that's fine. Most likely you are not that. You don't have to decorate as soon as they do. You can watch what they're decorating. You can read their blogs and see their Instagram reels, and you can check out what they're doing and get some inspiration, but nobody says you have to start incorporating it now. Maybe there's some things you want to order or pick up at the store because you want to recreate something that they did because it feels cozy to you. Then that's fine to do. But for this in between, I've decided I will take inspiration from them. And I did this even while I was doing the blog. I was a little bit always late to the game because I didn't want to push Christmas on my family. I wanted them to really just embrace this harvest time. And so those pumpkins, yes, I got them. And most people in my neighborhood will this week get rid of their pumpkins. They'll toss them to the curb, which means I could end up with a lot of pumpkins. One year we did do that. We collected a bunch of pumpkins just walking around, and we use those to decorate outside. But I probably won't. We'll just let the squirrels eat them. But a lot of people will just kind of discard them and move straight into Christmas. And I think there's something about this November and just embracing the fact that the colors of the trees, they're all going to fall. There's going to be like a feeling of barrenness, but we can bring a joy and a peace to that. So all of that is wrapped into that first idea I have, is that your heart needs to embrace the here and now, and you set the tone. Hopefully you've been able to take something from all that. I do have 5 more points, and I promise those won't be nearly as long. The second idea for a homemaking rhythm is to create cozy in your home. Now with the getting darker and the days being shorter, and that will continue until December, let's just embrace the fact that it's going to be dark. I don't enjoy getting up in the morning when it's dark, but I do like the coziness that I can create in the home. And I am a no overhead lights kind of person, and I feel like a lot of us women are. To be honest, for me, it just feels like really abrasive. And so I would rather have lots of lamps around the house, and they don't have to be expensive. I picked up, like last year, I think it was, a couple of them for our dining room at the thrift store. They were $10 each. My mom came out to visit recently and saw them. She's like, how much do you pay for these? And I told her, she's like, wow, you got a really good deal. They're like a milk glass. And now, granted, I had to get lampshades for them. So typically if you get them at the thrift store, you probably are best off just tossing that shade anyway and getting a new shade. But just having lamps, and just so in the morning, I'll just turn on some specific lamps around the house. Now, I'm not always the first one up. Actually, I'm not ever the first one up in my house. I have older kids, and they've got to get to work and stuff. And sometimes I'll come down, there's like all the overhead lights. I'm like, oh, I'll just go around and turn on little lamps. And they kind of know that's the vibe mom is going for. But you with your kids, you most likely are possibly up first, or the first one up and about, or the one that can kind of set the tone. So having just cozy lamps, just in multiple in each room, and maybe just turn one on in the morning just to kind of get everybody going. But as the day goes on, you can turn on some more, and then hopefully it gets light enough you don't need any of them on. But also candles. And the type of candle that I burn now exclusively are beeswax candles. I actually have a local friend that makes them. She's been at the Makers Market of the conference for the past 2 years, and it's Valentine's beeswax candles. I'll put the link for you in the show notes so you can go ahead and check out her shop. And she actually will put a little plug here for Advent. She has some beeswax Advent taper candles that you can use. I use those. And anyway, so I enjoy beeswax candles, and you don't have to get them from her, but just in case you want to help out another fellow homeschool mom. So also throw blankets, just having them around, cozy pillows, that kind of stuff, so kids can kind of cuddle up. Nobody says you have to do your math sitting at the table. Now, maybe you might have some kids that right now in this season of life, that is better for them. So that's fine. Go ahead and do that. But they can sit and read somewhere. You guys from morning time can cuddle up on the couch, but just creating something that's cozy. It doesn't have to be the front page of or the cover of any magazine. It doesn't have to be what possibly an DIY or home decor influencer would choose. Create cozy. Your kids are going to remember the feeling. Third is to get outside every day. You're like, how is that a homemaking rhythm? Well, you can kind of give your house a little bit of a break if you guys are outside. But also when you're outside and it's cool and it's crisp and the wind is maybe kind of nipping at your nose and your ears, and you come inside and it just feels warm and cozy and just like, this is where I want to be. So get outside every day. Maybe it's you with them taking a walk, going on some hikes, or maybe it's just simply them running around, frolicking, playing in the backyard while you maybe get some dinner going in the kitchen. The fourth is read alouds. I kind of alluded to this a little bit, but read books. Get out those fall, autumn books and read to your little ones, picture books. Have them read, the kids that you have that can read, let them read to their younger siblings, picture books, and find some books that are just going to help you embrace and to enjoy that coziness. Find books that are centered around maybe the time of year as far as autumn, and just enjoy those and just embrace it. This is a time that you can do a lot more reading. Number 5 is nourishing meals. This is a good time of the year for those hearty type meals, maybe some soups and some stews. Get out that crock pot. If you're wondering how to do a meal plan, like I alluded to a little bit earlier, I mentioned that I do have a meal plan guide. It's just an ebook, super simple to go through, and it's a super low price point, but just kind of gives you an idea of how I figure that all out. And anyway, you can check that out, that link in the show notes. And I do have a couple of meals in that. I don't create a lot of meals. I just kind of follow some other cookbooks and everything. But it's also a good time. I have a couple of specific e-cookbooks that have to do with the fall and harvest times. And I pulled them out. I was like, ooh, yes, all the pumpkin stuff and just, all just the cozy stuff. So nourishing meals. Think of that. As part of your homemaking rhythm. Decide what time you're going to be eating dinner. And then reverse engineer, well, what time do you need to start it? If you want to be eating dinner at 5 o'clock, then what time do you need to be starting it? You're like, well, it takes an hour and I'm not so good at this recipe. Well, then maybe it's like 3:30 that you need to start off with this. And it's okay if it just sits there and simmers on the stovetop for a little bit until you eat at 5. But just think of this time as a time to really be able to fill up and nourish yourselves and enjoy those mugs full of coffee or hot cocoa and just a feeling of, I guess, just overall just coziness and just embracing the fact that there's the warmth inside contrasted with the coolness and the fall and everything that's outdoors. And number 6, how can you create this homemaking rhythm that's going to lead to calmness? Now, at the time, the kids might not be super calm about this idea I'm going to give you, but it's going to help your heart and your mind to be calm. You won't be thinking at night, oh, we still have to do that. Oh, we still have to do this. And so my last tip is to include your children in seasonal chores. This can be part of your homeschool day as well. So what am I talking about seasonal chores? It could be things like I've spent a lot of time. Part of my week last week was clearing out from the summer outdoors and preparing for winter. And so that was pulling out all of the annuals, cutting back a couple of the perennials. I'm going to try leaving a bunch of them, just let the seeds for the birds and see how things go if I don't cut those back. But clearing out gardens, so you have a vegetable garden, flower gardens, maybe leaves. I've tried to mulch in a lot of my leaves, but sometimes we just have too many that it's just going to kill the grass. Or creating leaf piles, let the kids run and jump in that. That's always a lot of fun. But include them in those seasonal chores. Along with some of my seasonal chores is to go through our shed. It kind of becomes a dump zone by the end of the summer. And so I'll pull out everything and reorganize it so that wintertime comes that we can easily get things. Or sometimes our shed is snowed in, so we can't get to things. But that way then in the spring, when I'm ready to start working in the gardens, everything is where it needs to be. It hasn't really been messed up much. But it's just as a good time of the year to clear out things like your shed. I'll work on our garage as well. And so it's just looking at seasonally, what are some things that are important to do for you to do? Now, I've mentioned a bunch of things outside the home, but it could be things within the home that you also want to do and including your kids. And so they might, again, as I said, they might not be super excited about it at the time, but incorporating this into your homemaking will lead your heart to hopefully be at a place that's more content with your home. And then therefore that carries over into your homeschooling, just a more peaceful and a more calm mom. Now, if you're curious about the seasonal chores, I gave you a couple of those that I do. But if you are curious about wanting to create your own system, that is what the Tidy Home does. I don't have to get to the autumn and say, what do I need to do? I actually have a list that I just do every single autumn. Some of those carry over and I'll do them in the autumn and I'll do them in the spring as well. But for right now, I don't have to think about it because I just have like this rinse and repeat. Just every fall, this is what I do. And so next fall, this is what I do as well. And so the Tidy Home, the way that I created it is so that you don't have to continually be like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? You have a list. And if you don't get to everything on the list, guess what? It's okay too. Life will go on. If you want more information, it is at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/tidyhome. And the link will be in the show notes. But overall, friend, I just hope that you embrace this season. It is not a dreary, sad time. We can create a cozy environment, and then that cozy and calm environment will then lead to better homeschool days. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If it was just what you needed to hear, would you do me a favor and share it with a friend? And if you would like to connect more, social media links and more are in the show notes just for you. I promise to see you back here real soon.